Hi, Sarah here, from Cinemativa. And today, I'm going to explain an episode from an American adult animated anthology, Love, Death and Robots, called The Drowned Giant. At the beginning of the episode, three scientists drive to a beach while one of them, Steven, shares a story about a naked dead giant. A massive storm had hit the sea the day before, washing up a giant's dead body on the shore. The shocked local fishermen contacted officials, who initially refused to believe such heinous news. However, as more people began to visit the beach and return with bizarre tales, the scientists decided to go see for themselves. As a result, Steven and his colleagues, who thought everyone was joking about the dead giant, now confront him. A crowd has gathered around the corpse, afraid to touch it until they are certain it is safe. Steven's co-workers estimate that he weighs around 80 tons. Steven claims that the large proportion of his characteristics makes it impossible for them to determine his age. However, based on the giant's distinct nose and lips, he believes he was a young guy with a mild temper. The three surround the giant's body, studying him. Steven notices a pool of water that had accumulated in the corpse's hand, in which small fish swim. Steven claims that, aside from the giant's size, the mere fact that he exists surprises him the most. He compares the giant's existence to the beach crowd, concluding that they are all simply broken and puny replicas of him. As Steven looks at the creature mesmerized, his colleague climbs the corpse's chest and waves to the audience, signaling that it is safe to approach. People rush towards him, cheering, and climb to the top. Some of them say the body is rubbery and bouncy. Children begin to play on his chest, destroying it with their shoes. Steven, on the other hand, does not touch or climb on it. He and his colleagues observe the giant from a distance while taking notes. As time passes, the people become tired of playing with the dead giants and return home. After 3 days, Steven visits the beach again, because of his growing interest in the giant. His facility has assigned him the task of keeping an eye on it. Steven claims that he wasn't morbid about keeping an eye on a dead person because the giant seemed more alive to him than the people around him. He observes children sliding down the corpse's chest, and workers want to butcher his femur bone. The corpse has been declared public property. The following day, Steven deliberately postponed his visit to the beach until late afternoon, so no one would be around. When he arrives, the corpse is in poor condition and has begun to decay. A teenage girl rests comfortably on the giant's ear, which she is using as a chair. Steven notes that the giant's face has lost its young appearance. He believes that is due to extended seawater exposure and tissue tumefaction. As a crab crawls out of the giant's mouth, the scientist claims that it won't be long until he decays fully. Steven finally gets the courage to set foot on the corpse. At the top of his chest, he sees a sandcastle someone had built. Then his other arm appears, revealing that half of it has already disintegrated and that whatever remains of it has been taken away by people. Meanwhile, his corneas have gotten blurry and clouded, creating a swirling effect in his eyes. Steven looks at them, saying that the giant's suffering is less tragic than this isolation that he is facing. The next time he visits the giant, both his arms and one of his legs have decayed and been cut. Steven walks around looking at the corpse, which had been vandalized by teens who spray paint insults on his body. He feels concerned about seeing the demise of the lovely creature. However, the insults make him believe that the creature is more human now that it appears more sensitive to him. When Steven returns to the beach the next day, he is almost relieved to find that the corpse's head has been removed. Birds eat its flesh as Steven watches it from afar. Without the head, the body appeared less human, which lessens Steven's connection with the corpse that he had developed. He doesn't go to the beach for a few weeks after that. On his next journey, he witnesses that any feature indicating that the corpse was once human has vanished. The only thing that remains is the decaying gut of the once magnificent creature. By now, the interest of the crowd in the giant has expired. Months later, after the giant's arrival has been forgotten, various pieces of his body can be seen around town, especially his bones, which are used as decorations. While cycling one day, Steven notices the giant's skull lying abandoned. He believes that if he looks around the town's pubs, he will find mummified noses and ears as well. According to Steven, these decorations convey the giant's greatness better than Steven's memory of his bloated and decaying appendages. The giant's genitals are seen to have been chopped and displayed in a circus freak exhibit. Steven narrates that the apparatus occupies a whole tent to it but is sadly mislabeled as belonging to a whale. At last, the scientist says that the people who saw the giant remember him as only a sea monster. However, the giant is still alive in his mind, and he regularly dreamed about his resurrection. In his dreams, the giant strides through town, collecting his pieces on his way back to the sea. The episode, although short, has a deep and metaphorical meaning in every scene. Fans of the television series have their own interpretations, but many assume that the narrator, Steven, is the giant himself. Steven feels the pain of the dead giant when no one else can. As a result, some fans believe Steven and the giant is the same person. The giant might be trying to communicate through Steven. Furthermore, the way Steven explains numerous stages of the corpse's decay in such detail makes one question whether he is the one going through them. The decomposing body of the giant is also considered as a metaphor for various things. Steven, the narrator, attentively watches the corpse's decomposition at each stage. First, he observes the expected process of his body decaying with the passage of time. Then he observes individuals amputating the corpse as if it were a commodity, and the way others treated him showed him the level of consumerism and exploitation that is tolerated in today's world. As the story continues, Steven begins to wonder what it means to be human and when we have lost our humanity. He thought of the corpse as a human before it had a head, much like him and the others around him. In fact, he thought the giant was more like a human than a little creature like himself. However, Steven's compassion for the giant faded once he viewed him just as a pile of flesh. Throughout the episode, we don't know who the giant is or where he comes from. Rather, the drowned giant focuses more on the contrast of Steven and other people's feelings towards the giant. In the book itself, J.G. Ballard concludes with the detail about the giant's appendage being displayed in a circus. This is to highlight how severely the giant felt humiliated while being larger than them all. It also represents the superficial and exploitative character of humans. Furthermore, his genitals were described as whale genitals, and his bones were only decorative for the people. The giant has clearly been stripped of his humanity in this scene. However, Steven describes the genitals and decorated bones as the only things that convey how magnificent of a being the giant was. Despite the fact that he loves and remembers the creature more than anybody else, he believes that his memory of his decaying body would have never conveyed his greatness as his preserved body parts do. Before being washed up on the beach, the giant was only a myth. People experienced his arrival for a short while, but forgot about him soon, turning his existence into a myth again. We humans, like the giant, will fade away and be remembered only by the people we met. But those memories will disappear as well, and we shall cease to exist. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.